Football has always been a game of eras. Ronaldinho once made the world fall in love with his smile, his tricks, and his joy. Then came Lionel Messi, who didn't just dominate the sport, he redefined what greatness meant.
He's the best player I played against. He was just devastating.
But if you ask me who I would want to watch play, if I had to watch them, one or the other, every day of my life, I'd pick Messi.
Why?
Because he appears to do what is impossible. He weaves through spaces that don't exist. He sort of defies physics.
Carrying Barcelona to heights never seen before. But when Messi left, the Camp Nou fell silent. Fans whispered that the golden days were gone forever, that Barcelona's magic had died with their greatest player. And yet, from the same academy that once gave the world Xavi, Iniesta, and Messi, a new story was beginning. A boy with a left foot filled with courage, a teenager who played without fear, who carried the weight of history on his shoulders and still made the game look like fun. His rise wasn't just about talent, it was about hope, about rebirth, about the promise of a new era. That boy was Lamine Yamal. La Masia has always been more than an academy. It is a place where dreams are shaped into reality, where children learn not only how to play football, but how to play it the Barcelona way. Over the years, many boys have walked through its gates, dreaming of becoming the next legend. Most fade into the shadows, but every generation, one shines so brightly that even the coaches know they are looking at something rare. For this generation, that light was Lamine Yamal. From the very first training sessions, Yamal was different. He wasn't the biggest, he wasn't the strongest, but he carried himself with a confidence that set him apart. While others hesitated, he demanded the ball. While others feared losing it, he attacked defenders again and again. His left foot was alive, sharp in the pass, ruthless in the shot, and unpredictable in the dribble. At an age when most kids were still learning the basics, Yamal was already dictating games. By the time he was 13, Yamal was playing against boys far older, yet he was still the standout. He could glide past opponents, but what impressed most was his vision. He saw spaces others couldn't, delivering passes that felt years ahead of his age. Parents on the sidelines stopped watching their own children, drawn instead to the boy with the number 10 on his back, the one who seemed untouchable with the ball at his feet. Coaches knew instantly, La Masia had found its next jewel. But what made Yamal truly special wasn't just his ability, it was his mentality. He never backed down, no matter the size of the challenge. He embraced responsibility, relished the pressure, and carried himself like someone destined for greatness. And just as Barcelona entered one of the darkest periods in their modern history, their academy had given them a boy who played like he was born to bring the light back. Lamine Yamal was ready, and the world was about to meet him. The year was 2023, and Barcelona were a club still struggling to find their rhythm. The shadow of Messi's departure loomed over every match, every season, every disappointment. The team had talent, yes, but the magic, that special Barcelona spark, felt lost. In the middle of that uncertainty, manager Xavi Hernandez decided to take a gamble. He turned to a boy barely 15 years old, a player the academy spoke about in whispers of destiny. The world expected a symbolic cameo, nothing more. But what happened instead was history. On April 29, 2023, in a league match against Real Betis, Yamal stepped onto the pitch for the first time in La Liga. At just 15 years and 290 days, he became the youngest ever debutant for Barcelona. The Camp Nou, filled with doubt and fatigue in recent years, rose to its feet as the teenager touched the ball. And what followed was not nerves or hesitation, but pure electricity. Within minutes, he was dribbling at defenders, slipping into spaces, and creating chances as if he had been doing it for years. The crowd knew instantly, this was no ordinary debut. That brief glimpse was enough for the headlines to explode. The youngest player in Barcelona's history had arrived, and he was not just surviving on the pitch, he was thriving. Soon after came the Champions League, where he shattered another record by becoming the youngest ever starter in the competition. Every milestone that seemed impossible was being rewritten by Yamal's name. But more than the records, It was the way he played. Fearless, confident, assured. He didn't look like a boy learning the game, he looked like a man ready to lead it. By the time he turned 16, Yamal was no longer a backup option. He was becoming a key part of Xavi's team. He was providing assists, drawing fouls, and making defenders twice his age look helpless. In matches that once felt too big for a teenager, he thrived, demanding the ball, taking responsibility, and performing when it mattered most. Barcelona fans who had once mourned the loss of Messi now found themselves chanting the name of another left-footed magician. The teenage breakthrough wasn't just a story of records. It was the birth of a player ready to shoulder the hopes of a fallen giant.
And there is the little boy becoming a man. Lamine Yamal, what a story. 16. What were you doing when you were 16? Modric could be his father. Young and innovative, maybe just a beginning for Spain.
While Barcelona was rediscovering its heartbeat through Yamal, Spain was about to meet its next great hero. The national team had been searching for a new identity since the golden era of Xavi, Iniesta, and David Villa faded away. At just 16 years old, Yamal was called to the senior squad. Critics questioned whether it was too soon, whether the weight of international football would crush him. But Yamal was not like other teenagers. For him, pressure was not a burden, it was a stage. On September 8, 2023, Spain faced Georgia in a Euro qualifier. Yamal stepped onto the pitch with the same calm he carried at Masia. Minutes later, he struck. A precise finish, ice in his veins. And suddenly he was the youngest goal scorer in Spain's history. 16 years, 57 days. The crowd roared, his teammates embraced him, and the footballing world stopped to pay attention. This was not hype anymore. This was history unfolding. Then came Euro 2024, where Yamal didn't just play, he owned the tournament. Against seasoned defenders twice his age, he dribbled, created, and delivered. But one night in Munich became his masterpiece. Spain trailed France in the semi-final when Yamal picked up the ball outside the box. One touch to his left, a glance at the goal, and he unleashed a curling strike that flew past Maignan into the top corner. At just 16, he had scored one of the greatest goals the Euros had ever seen. Commentators screamed his name, fans lost their voices, and Spain felt the power of their new star. As if the Euros weren't enough, Yamal left another unforgettable mark in a friendly against Brazil at the Santiago Bernabeu. Against the five-time world champions, he dominated with assists, dribbles, and creativity. When his number came up for substitution in stoppage time, something rare happened. The entire crowd stood and applauded him. A standing ovation for a Barcelona teenager inside Real Madrid's fortress. That night, Yamal wasn't just Spain's golden boy. He was football's golden boy, a symbol of the game's future, earning respect across rivalries, borders, and generations. Barcelona were still trying to find themselves in the post-Messi world. The club had been battered by financial chaos, humbled in Europe, and mocked by rivals who claimed the magic of Barca was dead. The Camp Nou had grown quiet, and hope seemed like a distant memory. But then came a teenager with no fear in his eyes, a boy who didn't care about the scars of the past. Lamine Yamal stepped into the spotlight and began to remind the world of what Barcelona stood for. From his first full season, Yamal became more than just a young prospect. He was essential. In La Liga matches, he was often the difference maker, stretching defenses with his speed, cutting inside with his deadly left foot, and feeding teammates with vision far beyond his years. The chemistry he built with Pedri and Rafinha gave Barcelona a new heartbeat in midfield and attack, while the emergence of Pau Cubarsí at the back created a new identity of young Catalan talent leading the club. The fans could see it clearly. The future of Barcelona wasn't being bought, it was being born. Yamal's brilliance shone brightest on the grandest stages. In El Clasico matches against Real Madrid's defense, he played as if the rivalry had been written for him. Goals, assists, daring dribbles, he tormented Madrid's backline and silenced the Bernabeu. Each performance deepened his legend, and the chants of his name grew louder at Camp Nou. The teenager had become the player opponents planned for, the one defenders feared, the one fans trusted when everything was on the line. But it wasn't just about his numbers. It was about his aura. He played with joy, with swagger, with the kind of confidence Barcelona had missed since Messi's departure. The team no longer looked lost in big games because they had someone who wanted the responsibility. For a club in crisis, Yamal wasn't just scoring goals or creating assists. He was restoring belief. He was the reminder that Barcelona's identity, beautiful, fearless, attacking football, was alive again. In the eyes of millions, the boy from Masia had become the savior of a broken giant. By 2025, Lamine Yamal was no longer just the teenager breaking records. He was the player breaking spirits. What made him different wasn't just his technique, but his fearlessness. He stepped into games against Europe's biggest clubs as if they were training matches. Stadiums filled with pressure, defenders twice his age, and crowds roaring against him. None of it mattered. Yamal played with the same calm joy he had as a child in Masia. For him, football was never something to fear. It was something to own. His greatest weapon was not only his left foot, but his mentality. Yamal carried an aura that unsettled defenders before he even touched the ball. Defenders knew what was coming, the cut inside, the shift onto his left. But stopping him was another story. He thrived in big games, from Champions League nights to El Clásicos, turning pressure into fuel. For Barcelona, he became the player they could always look to when the team was under fire. And time after time, he delivered. What set him apart even more was his consistency. Many young players shine in flashes, but Yamal burned brightly every week. When he said he would step up, he stepped up. When he promised to dominate, he dominated. Fans began to call it his talk-and-do nature, not arrogance, but a terrifying honesty. His opponents heard his words, dismissed them as youthful bravado, and then found themselves chasing his shadow on the pitch. That kind of confidence mixed with execution turned him from a wonder kid into a nightmare. And with every performance, his legend grew. Coaches praised him, rivals respected him.
How good is this guy at 17 years old?
I think he's the best player in the world, to be honest.
Do you? Do you think, what, just from a technical standpoint, like...
Everything, I feel like everything they do just goes through him, and just when you watch him,
What I witnessed tonight from Lamine Yamal, you said it already, Micah, it's not normal to be like that at 17.
Like, I don't even know what I'm watching, what I'm witnessing, but he played like a man possessed. And when I say a man, he's not even a man yet.
And even hostile crowds stood to applaud him when he left the field. He was still only a teenager, yet he had the aura of a veteran, the presence of a leader, and the fearlessness of a street footballer who had nothing to lose. Yamal wasn't just unstoppable because of his skill. He was unstoppable because he refused to believe he could be stopped at all. By the end of 2025, Lamine Yamal was no longer just a prodigy. He was a phenomenon standing shoulder to shoulder with the best in the world. The Ballon d'Or stage in Paris, a place reserved for legends, now had the face of an 18-year-old from Masia. The cameras flashed, the lights dimmed, and when the final ranking was revealed, Yamal stood second. At an age when most players are dreaming of their first senior contract, he was already a Ballon d'Or contender. It wasn't just recognition of talent, it was confirmation that football's future had arrived. But with greatness came responsibility, and Yamal carried the heaviest of them all, Barcelona's number 10 jersey. Worn by Ronaldinho, worn by Messi, it was more than a number. It was a symbol, a burden, and a promise to millions of fans. Some said it was too early, too much pressure for shoulders still so young, but Yamal embraced it, as if he was born to. Every time he stepped onto the pitch, the weight of that number pressed down on him, and yet he turned it into fuel. He didn't shy away from the expectations, he demanded them. The pressure of the number 10 is not just about scoring goals or providing assists. It is about carrying hope. It is about walking into hostile stadiums and making them fall silent. It is about being the one everyone looks to when the game is slipping away. And in that jersey, Yamal delivered. He played with joy, he played with courage, and he played as though he had inherited not just the shirt, but the spirit of those who wore it before him. As he stood in Paris, applauded by legends twice his age, the message was clear. Lamine Yamal was not a wonder kid anymore. He was Barcelona's present, Spain's hero, and football's future. Second place in the Ballon d'Or at 18 years old was not an ending, it was a beginning. And with the number 10 on his back, he carried not just the weight of history, but the promise of a new golden era. Football lives on stories. The story of Ronaldinho's joy, of Messi's genius, of eras that come and go. And now, in this new era, it lives on the rise of Lamine Yamal. From La Masia's fields to Europe's brightest stages, from a boy with a dream to a man carrying the number 10, he has shown the world that magic still exists. He is fearless, he is unstoppable, and he is only just beginning. And as the world watches, one truth becomes clear. The next great era of football doesn't belong to tomorrow. It has already begun.